The Minoans were masters of the Mediterranean, fielding a vast merchant fleet ferrying goods between the surrounding communities and the great civilizations of old. They lived on the island of Crete in the center of the eastern Mediterranean, allowing them to forge contacts from Italy to the Levant. It is a mountainous land with rich soils, natural harbors, and quality timber. The island allowed our ancestors to build a wealthy civilization spanning settlements across the Aegean and creating a trade empire protected by a legendary navy. This is Ancestoria, the original island empire. The Minoans likely came to the islands when Neolithic farmers spread out across Europe from Anatolia around 3000 HE. The initial inhabitants prospered on the fertile Cretan plains. With short winters and a moist temperate climate, agricultural yields far surpassed the line of necessity, positioning Crete to later export their surpluses. As populations increased, villages coalesced into towns, centering around huge palace-like buildings around 8000 HE. Produce was collected and stored in the great palatial buildings lining the coastlines of the island, and a network of roads connected the major areas running from the farms to the palaces and to the ports. An oligarchy of elite families may have been the masters of the trade enterprises, but the vast shipping conducted by the Minoans would have been a titanic undertaking. This was a society where a majority was involved in this trade, and so it appears that they shared in the wealth where goods and services were redistributed in exchange for their labor. Ancient Greek legends attest that the Minoan civilization held a trade monopoly in the sea lanes of the eastern Mediterranean. There was significant trade on land, but it is considerably cheaper and faster to trade on the seas. The Cretan exports consisted of food, wine, olive oil, timber, dyes, saffron, and pottery. There was considerable demand in the east for these products, and so Cretan trade was highly valued. Timber was especially important as Egypt and Mesopotamia were severely lacking in trees, and they needed high-quality wood in order to build chariots and ships. Foreign transactions were likely in exchange for products they required, such as copper and tin, or for an agreed-on weight of gold or silver measured by a Bronze Age scale. As their mercantile fleet expanded, they constantly required more space, both to store their wares and for their populations to live and work. This led our ancestors to set up a series of colonies reaching across the islands in the eastern Mediterranean, as well as the construction of port cities on the edges of foreign lands to expand their commercial opportunities. With their great wealth, they invested in the creation of an extensive collection of artwork consisting of beautiful frescoes, decorative pottery, and small statues. There was also a theater area and depictions of sport which may have inspired later Greek traditions. Additionally, Cretan artists and shipwrights were highly sought after in Egypt and Canaan and willingly exported their cultural achievements and ideas to numerous nations, likely to curry favor and ultimately expand their trade. However, their civilization came to an abrupt end. Around 8500 HE, a massive volcanic eruption destroyed one of their island colonies and created a tsunami which flooded their coastlines and dragged their navy and merchant fleet down to the depths of the sea. Their island was always secure, and so they built few fortifications, but with the decimation of their fleet and their economy, they were open to aggression. Mycenaeans conquered and assumed the reins of the island civilization soon after. The Minoans were brilliant artists and master merchants, establishing a colonial regime and spreading their culture far and wide. Their influence can be seen on their conquerors, in which fragments would pass down to the ancient Greeks, forming part of the bedrock of Western civilization, as well as various other locations throughout the Mediterranean. They were one of the greatest trading nations in the Bronze Age, and their reputation would echo throughout time, becoming a kingdom of legend. This is Ancestoria, the history of our ancestors.